Into yet another study I saw recently that says that 10% of people that take online courses never finish. Now that's a real sad statistic, and it's not a surprise to me. We build a lot of membership sites. We work with a lot of small business owners that are wanting to get their materials out online to complement their in-person coaching or training or whatever else that they consult with. And we run into this all the time. And good content developers understand the value of what their course does for their students. They understand that if someone learns something that you teach, they're going to get a lot of value, and it really depends based on what it is that you teach. Now, the effort that you put into keeping people in your course not only gets them to the end, it's definitely time well spent, but it's also a way for you to fuel your business. I mean, if people aren't finishing your program, they're going to be dissatisfied. They're definitely not going to be referring other people to your program, and that's going to be a hit to you. One surefire way to really create a stickiness and a reason for people to stick around is to build a community. There's just so much power in community. Now let's look at how learning happens in person versus when you go online. Going back to when we were learning in school, from elementary, high school, college, wherever you learned, it was always done in groups. There was no online stuff, especially when I was growing up. So there was an implicit community there. Now the reason they did it back then was because, one-on-one teaching just isn't practical. You can't leverage it. Who can pay for the teacher? Things like that. But it also puts a group of people going through a learning process together. Now, I've done a lot of teaching, particularly at the college level, and the dynamics of all classes are very similar. You typically have a bunch of students that never raise their hands. Even if they know the answer, they just want to kind of stay to themselves and be quiet. They may have a question, but they're going, I'm just going to wait until someone else asks a question. At the same time, you typically have what I call class reps, or the vocal students, and those are the ones that are asking questions, and maybe they're asking too many questions. You sometimes have to keep them under control. Now, the reason I, as an instructor, spent a lot of time, just saying, does anybody have any questions, more than anything, is to see, did someone not understand some aspect of what I taught? The quiet students don't give me any feedback. The ones that are vocal help me guide explanations to areas of my presentation where I may have missed something. Now, the guy who's quiet is probably going to go one of two things. Will that vocal person either shut up, or they might go, oh gosh, that's a question I wanted to ask, but I really didn't want to, so they're the ones that got me through it. The quiet people also may come up and say, wow, that's not a question I would have asked, but I'm glad they did. That helped me learn the material better. That dynamic is something that's really powerful when you're learning. The thing we have to think about is, how do I replicate that in an online environment? Now, one thing that we recommend to a lot of our, course developers, the people that do business with us, is why don't you complement your course with a Facebook group? Now, Facebook group, the main reason I suggest it is because it's easy. It takes absolutely no effort to put up, and as a result, you have a private group where people that are going through your course can ask questions. Now, this is definitely a step up from having students email the instructor. The problem with that, assuming the instructor has plenty of time on his hands, is that the instructor is answering the question over and over and over again. They answer it once, and then if another student asks the same question, maybe they can copy and paste the answer out of their email, but it's not stored knowledge. If you use a Facebook group, the nice thing is someone asks a question, you answer it right there in the Facebook group thread, into the news feed, and everybody sees it. So it's out there in the public. Now, that assumes that everybody is taking the course at the same time, where you might be offering a course that starts, let's say, September 1st and goes 12 weeks through the middle of October, or a little bit past that. So it works really well if people are going at it in tracks or in a single cohort. Now, when you're running an evergreen program where people can jump in whenever, the answer inside of a Facebook thread might be, months back, and people may not know to scroll down to find it, and Facebook doesn't have a very good search feature. So what you can do as an alternative is you set up comments at the bottom of lessons. Now, we build just about all of our online courses using WordPress. We'll use a tool like LearnDash, which allows you to compartmentalize your courses into lessons and then sometimes topics if you have sub-lessons. And at the bottom, you can open up the comments and allow people to ask the questions there. And that's really handy, because if somebody went through the program in September and now someone else goes in through November and someone else goes into February, they can interact with the answers from before. They can check to see if someone else asked that question and what answer did they receive. And then they can add additional questions, which builds almost like a frequently asked questions, and it's customized to the specific lesson. So it's very topic centric. Now, another way to do this is you add a forum, and each course in your environment has a forum. Now, the benefit of that is you can compartmentalize questions, not necessarily one-to-one with the lessons, but by topics. And then people can have discussions that way. And forums are great when it comes to searching. So I can be at lesson 3 and have a question that maybe is answered in what would have been the comments underneath lesson 5. Well, this allows you to search for an answer, based on some keywords, and you'll grab a discussion that was going on somewhere else, because maybe someone started off with a question on number 5 and the question was answered in number 3, but the information then is stored in the forum topic related to lesson 5. So ends up being a handy way to handle that. Now, one thing that a lot of instructors underestimate is the power of students helping each other out. You may have a group of people that over time are studying one topic, and you have people that are 3, 4, maybe a year ahead of other people. If someone presents a question, it could be that even before the instructor answers it, another student comes in and answers instead. And even better, you might have students that go, oh, that was answered over here, and maybe that student can come up and give them the answer based on a link in another part of the forum, a lesson comment, wherever that might be. So you end up really having a learning community, and that might be a nice way to offload some of the support responsibility to someone other than the court instructor. So I just wanted to point out there's a lot of power in communities, and it's something you definitely should consider as you're developing your course content.